Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. So friends, in this video we will have our discussion on the placement of planet Mars in the D9 chart. So friends, we cannot overlook the importance of the planet Mars. As much as we need Mars to be that driven and confident in our life, to approach all the challenges of our life with resilience, with confidence, but at the same time, when it comes down to one specific area of the life, which is marriage, over there Mars actually plays a very significant role. It's not like Venus, where like if Venus is in a strengthened state, your matrimonial life is going to be filled with romance. If afflicted, like romance might be dying, but still marriage can keep going on. But with Mars, if Mars is kind of afflicted in the chart, it can actually create an havoc in the harmony of the matrimonial life. That so-called the Manglik dosha gets judged from the placement of the Mars in the D1 chart only. But now friends, when it comes down to the D9 chart, because if Mars can actually play a spoil sport in your matrimonial life in the D1 chart, D9 chart is specifically designed for the matrimonial life only, right? So we cannot undermine the importance of Mars in this chart. So that is the only reason friends, I came up with this kind of a master class on decoding Mars's placement in the D9 chart. What does the classic say? Like what kind of approach and attitude you need to follow in order to have that harmony in your matrimonial life. Because I always say friends, most of the problems created by Mars are connected with our own behavioral flaws only. Mars is not as karmic as Saturn or Rahu and Ketu could be. So that means via mending our own personality, via changing our own attitude, we can actually get rid of most of the problems being caused by planet Mars. So yes friends, this is what this video is going to be. So this is going to be kind of a comprehensive approach for decoding Mars in the D9 chart. So okay friends, after this now we will switch to the narration part of our this discussion. Mars in the D9 chart can be seen as the Agni of marriage, tapas of dharma, and the karmic fire of union. I always say friends, Navamsa is not about events. It is about the inner vow the soul takes when it enters marriage and dharma. So Mars here is Agni, the sacred fire. Whether it purifies or burns depends on the consciousness. Now, if you have to actually approach this Mars in the D9 from the Parampara, like from the classics. So, while the classics do not isolate D9 house by house interpretations the way modern books do, Navamsa is repeatedly emphasized as the dharma refiner in text. Like for example, if you will take up the case of the Bhrat Prashar Hora Shastra. So it has explained that Navamsa as the fruit-bearing refinement of the planets. If we look at the Fal Deepika, so marriage judged after Navamsa confirmation. Like Mantreshwar makes a key distinction. Rashi tells about the external circumstances and Navamsa tells about the inner merit and conduct, where the teaching emphasizes that marriage succeed not by external comfort but by the inner conduct of the partners. So Mars in the D9 shows how one conducts oneself under pressure, how desire is handled, restrained or weaponized, whether conflict becomes purification or destruction. Now friends, when we look at for example Saravali, so it has explained that Graha dignity beyond Rashi when we approach the Navamsa. So it tells about the dignity of the Graha beyond the Rashi, because Saravali emphasized the Graha Bala and the dispositor strength as to be decisive, because as per the Saravali text, it emphasizes on a planet that is restrained by dignity and guidance produces controlled results. So for example, many people talk about and they are curious about the Manglik, right? So the Manglik karma as per Saravali softens when in D9. So for example in D9, if Mars is in its own sign, exalted, friendly Amsa, Mars is guided by, aspected by Jupiter, Venus is protected in the D9 chart, the dispositor of the Mars is strong. So in these charts, Mars become protector of marriage, enforcer of boundaries and guardian of the dharma. So we will look at it friends, all aspect of it. And talking about the Jatak Parijat, it emphasizes that when you approach D9 chart, dharma and spouse karma are interlinked over there. So combining everything, the traditional rule says Rashi shows the karmic situation, but it's the Navamsa which shows how the soul carries that karma. Now specifically approaching Mars and Mars's spiritual role in the Navamsa. So Mars or Kuja represents tapas, austerity. I'm talking about from the Navamsa perspective. So it represents tapas, austerity, shaurya, inner courage, your kriya shakti, capacity to act, and the sayam, like discipline through struggle. So in the D9, Mars answers one question: how does this soul handle heat inside commitment? Marriage is the greatest tapas for a grahast, for a householder, and Mars decide whether one perform this duty or austerity with awareness or create the tapas by suffering. So friends, Mars in the D9 and the soul's marriage karma. So for example, if and when Mars is conscious in the D9, so marriage will become like a sadhana. Conflict become refinement, not destruction. Spouse act as mirror and awakener. Sexual energy is transmuted, not compulsive, and protection replaces the domination. This is Agni in the Yagna Kund. Now, when we talk about that Mars is unconscious in D9, so in those cases, ego clashes, power struggles, harsh speech, impatience, winning matters more than the harmony, passion without devotion, and marriage feels like constant testing. This is Agni outside the Kund. So friends, the Manglik dosha, because I'm sure if you are watching this video, the only thing which will be governing your mind is how shall I nullify or verify the Manglik dosha, right? The spiritual truth. So the first principle from all majority of the authentic schools says Manglik dosha is judged from D1. All the events are always judged from the D1. Navamsa is for the confirmation and maturation, not for the primary labeling. Mars creates heat, marriage requires containment. So the real question is, can the native hold fire without burning the bond? So friends, like now the question comes to your mind is how D9 spiritually validates or softens Manglik karma, right? So Manglik becomes constructive when in D9. So, okay, let me clear this out. In your D1 chart, you have Mars in the so-called Manglik placement. For example, in the first house, 4th house, 7th house, 8th house, 12th house. Now, you have to verify that is it constructive for you or not. So it is going to be constructive if in the D9 the same Mars is dignified, like in the own sign, exalted, or in the friendly sign. Mars is connected to the Jupiter. This could be through conjunction, this could be through aspect. So this will talk about the dharma guidance. Or Mars supports the D9 Lagna or the 9th house. Venus individually is protected in the D9, 7th house is protected in the D9, and the dispositor of Mars is strong. So in such cases, Mars does not deny marriage, it demands conscious marriage, a responsible marriage. Manglik becomes karmically heavy. For example, in the D1 chart, you have Mars in the so-called placement in the 1st house, 4th house, 7th house, 8th house, 12th house, and in the D9, the same Mars is also afflicted, like Mars is afflicting D9 Lagna because Mars in the D9 Lagna is in the, for example, in the like Aquarius sign, it is in the Virgo sign, it is in the Gemini sign, it is placed in the 7th house, again in the Mercury signs, or it is somehow like conjunct with the Venus and Rahu in the 7th house. Mars combines with Rahu, like Rahu represents unconscious desire. It is conjunct with Saturn, which can tell about the cold friction, and the dispositor of the Mars is weak or fallen in the D9 chart. Then these are the cases we can say that here marriage becomes a karmic furnace until awareness rises. So now friends comes the question that how to interconnect Mars and the tapas in the D9. So in the Navamsa, Mars often diverts the sexual fire into the spiritual fire. Strong spiritual Mars signatures are like Mars connected to the 9th house, 12th house. Mars is conjunct with Ketu. Mars is influenced by Jupiter. And Mars is operating during the spiritual dasha. So then we can say this thing that this is a indication where these natives are called towards the vrat, discipline and the seva. They need physical austerity to stay balanced, and it may delay marriage until the fire is refined. So this is why we say that if marriage is going to be delayed, it is not always the case of the denial in many Mars heavy D9 charts. Now friends, if you also want to look at, for example, the explanation of Mars in each of the D9 house, specifically from the lens of the marriage, bhagya, your fortune, and the tapas lens, austerity, right? So if in the D9 chart you have Mars in the first house, so see friends, it talks about marriage will demand respect and the autonomy. It also tells about that marriage is going to be very dominant, and the partner's personality is also going to be very independent. Like your partner is going to be very assertive, like very confident personality, not someone who's going to be very submissive or very timid. Your partner is going to have his or her own individuality, which needs to be respected, which needs to be honored. It can also attract a bold spouse, and we generally say that if you actually want the sustenance of the marriage much better, avoid the dominance battles. Tapas is going to be very strong, and we generally say that the discipline potential is going to be very strong. Only if there are other supporting factors in the chart which is supporting compatibility and harmony in the marriage, in the matrimonial life. So this indicates that the partner is going to be very disciplined. Now friends, let's say for example, if you want to understand Mars's placement in the second house in the D9 chart. So friends, it talks more about the family speech, and values become the battlefield, or this could be the backbone. So like the way in some of the relationship where there is a lot of the issues with the joint family, there is a lot of the issues of verbal argument, that could be a unconscious, unawakened, afflicted Mars operating in the second house in the D9 chart. But let's say for example, if Mars is strengthened, like for example it is exalted, it is aspected by the planet Jupiter, and the same Mars in the D1 chart is strengthened, is dignified, then it will act like a backbone. Your partner will actually be a good provider, a sustainer, a protector, especially when we talk about values and the household income, finances. Now let's say for example friends, because also it will talk about the protectiveness about the finances. You just have to watch the harsh speech, and it is also good for building wealth through effort if well supported. Now friends, if you have to understand Mars being in the third house in the D9 chart, so it talks more about the courage and the initiative, like we build together kind of vibe. You know this thing that Mars is seen as the significator karaka of the third house. This is the house of the efforts, your courage, your prowess. So Mars, whether in the ascendant chart, in the D9 chart, in the third house, is considered as strong. So that means that sort of we build together kind of vibe in the marriage, and slight vulnerability that it may bring debates or the involvement of the siblings, and this is a placement which need very mature communication. Now friends, if you want to understand Mars's placement in the fourth house in the D9 chart, so this talks about the domestic heat, like where the decision connected to the property or the home life could be very intense. It is great for building asset, but you need to avoid fights at home. And there is going to be strong tapas through serving family and the home duties. Like, one thing is for sure that there might be fights at the home, or you might agree or disagree on certain points, but your partner is going to be very family oriented. Back in the mind, family and the family duties, responsibilities will always be the top priority for your partner, for your spouse, or in the joint matrimonial life. Now, if say Mars is placed in the fifth house in the D9 chart, then it talks about the strong romance chemistry. We know this thing that fifth house is the house of the Pur Punya, our sanskaras are somehow connected with over here. So, native is going to be very committed. Like we generally say that in most of the cases where the young college time, school time, romance turns into successful marriage, a matrimonial life could be one such indication. So, a strong romance chemistry, passionate kind of creativity, parenting style can be slightly strict, and if utilized well, this placement can be channeled into constructive leadership as well. Now, friends, when we place Mars in the sixth house in the D9 chart, so obviously, friends, sixth house is not a very supportive placement. There is going to be that sort of conflict or the competitive tone within the marriage, and arguments can become habitual. Like, again, if Mars is dignified over here, well supported by the Jupiter, so all these bickering and the arguments will not take a toll in the sustenance of the relationship. But let's say, for example, if the same Mars in the sixth house in the D9 chart is like conjunct with Saturn or with Rahu or Ketu, then this can actually create more problems. So what this placement requires is it need conscious peacemaking, and it is like good if both of the persons in the relationship like structured routines. Now, friends, let's say for example, if Mars in the D9 chart is placed in the seventh house, this talks about the like very high passion and high ego potential as well. Like, marriage thrives when there is a shared mission. Otherwise, there is going to be frequent clashes. Because, friends, Mars is like a soldier which needs a task in the hand. If you will leave the soldier without any job in the hand, they might start clashing or self-harming. So that means there has to be a shared mission. At a time when you are getting married, it becomes very important that you need to have that discussion with your partner regarding the vision. Like, do you have a overlap of your vision for the life or not? Otherwise, the way I mentioned, this will lead to frequent clashes. And it also tells about like your spouse is going to have very strong personality, and equality is something which is non-negotiable, because you cannot win over your partner through domination, through aggression. Now, friends, if this Mars is placed in the 8th house in the D9 chart, so it is very intense placement. This is a placement which can actually transform you, and the trust test are going to be there. Like, for example, if some of the marriages where, for example, one person was caught cheating, so, and just because you come from a traditional society that you cannot take a divorce, but now the dent has now happened in the marriage, which is very difficult to fix now. So that means trust is something which needs to be earned. Otherwise, the whole matrimonial life is going to be filled with the flavors of suspicion, or this could be possession, like, or possessiveness. For example, just because you're insecure, you're all the time trying to control your partner. So this can indicate deep bonding, but also jealousy control if afflicted. And it is great for occult tantric discipline if guided well. Now, friends, if Mars is in the 9th house in the D9 chart, this is like a dharma warrior kind of signature placement. Marriage improves through shared pilgrimage, learning, and teacher kind of lineage. Some of the couples I see that, after when they are married and they have a child, somehow they have joined some religious institution, kind of a meditation cult or something. Now they are very devotedly surrendered to that cause. So if you are that devoted, then this is good for the harmony of the marriage as well. So the bhagya rises, the fortune rises through disciplined action. If the same Mars is placed in the 10th house, so friends, this talks about like the couple could be very ambitious. You might have a very strong public life, or we say that the career will strongly shapes the marriage. This placement needs the work-life balance to prevent the dryness in the marriage. If this Mars is placed in the 11th house in the D9 chart, so obviously friends, 11th house is the house of the gains, right? So gains through spouse or through your network, goal-oriented partnership, this can be demanding, but it also ensure emotional warmth. If the same Mars, if it is placed in the 12th house, friends, so we know that like 12th house is the actual house of the sexual activities as well, your passion as well, right? So there is a very strong bedroom kind of energy, foreign links, and the spiritual retreat kind of energy. And for example, if it is afflicted, there might be concerns of the secret, repressive anger, escapism. And if supported well, this talks about the tapas, seva, or the retreat practice. And also friends, like Mars in the D9 in the signs, it behaves emotionally differently in the marriage, because because the sign meanings can vary by tradition. So if I were to give you a classical style interpretation based on the dignity and the element, right? So if the same Mars in the D9 chart is in the fire signs, it talks more about the quick ignition, direct confrontation, high passion, and needs cooling practices. If it is in the earth signs, steady effort, protective, provider kind of vibe, and there might be stubborn kind of conflicts. If it's in the air signs, so argument through logic, debate style, needs emotional grounding. And if it is in the water signs, so the emotional intensity, protectiveness, needs the boundaries to avoid the mood driven fights. Also friends, if you want to understand the conjunctions as well of the same Mars in the D9 chart, which can change everything. So if Mars is conjunct with Saturn, discipline or the cold conflict, like delays in the harmony, very duty heavy marriage, it need the softness rituals. If Mars is conjunct with Rahu in the D9 chart, it will talk about the explosive desires, sudden fights, obsession patterns, and must cultivate conscious communication. If the same Mars is conjunct with Ketu, this could be detachment and sharpness, like spiritual austerity is possible. Intimacy needs mindful nurturing. If Mars is conjunct with Venus, so very high attraction, can be a love war. If benefic support exists, this is going to be very magnetic kind of energy. And Mars conjunct with Jupiter, ethical courage. Like we say that protection and the dharma, it is excellent for converting heat into the wisdom. So friends, when we talk about the practical remedies, right, because Mars is intense in D9 and marriage is affected, so always aim for the sublimation, not for the suppression. That means regular physical discipline is important, because Mars needs the outlet. Seva that involves effort, like service transform aggression into protection. Cooling practices like pranayam, evening walks, and reducing the stimulants before any difficult task. And relationship practice like no argument window. Don't fight when you are hungry, when you are tired. That sort of pause rule is very important. And if you do the mantra path, choose one Mars related sadhana consistently rather than many scattered ones. So friends, finally I end this discussion on this note that Mars in the D9 never asks will you marry. It asks can you hold the fire with devotion, because if you can, then the marriage will become like the yagna. So friends, I hope you found this video informational. I always say this is a research platform. We all learn from each other. So whatever is working in your case, and like if you want to add something in terms of your own findings, do write it, do share it in the comment section, so that we can also get benefited because of your knowledge. So friends, for further more updates and notification on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on my Instagram account. Dhanyavad.